Let's see what happens when an American soldier is captured and imprisoned in Japan. The movie opens with an American man named James, who arrives at a place to meet Master Chai. He points to a photo on the wall and asks about the man in the picture. Chai looks at it and says, "That's my father, but who are you?" James replies, "I knew your father. We met during World War II." Chai nods and says, "My father told me about you. You're from the West, and you know their fighting skills. Now I want to see that fight myself." Then all of Chai's students surround James and begin to fight him. Using his sharp combat skills, James defeats all of them. Seeing his students being beaten, Chai stops the fight and asks, "Tell me, why have you come here?" James begins to tell his story. It was 1942, during World War II. James was flying a plane deep into Japanese territory to launch an attack when a squadron of Japanese fighter planes appeared behind him. One of them hit his plane, and smoke started pouring out. With no other option left, James jumped out before the plane exploded. He lost consciousness. When he woke up the next morning, a group of Japanese soldiers was approaching him. James quickly attacked them and managed to defeat them, but his victory didn't last long. A whole troop of Japanese soldiers soon surrounded him. He tried to escape but was captured and taken to a nearby military camp full of Japanese soldiers. There, James was brought before Commander Ito. After looking at James, Ito said, "We already have plenty of prisoners. This one is of no use to me." He then ordered his men to execute James. James was taken into the jungle to execute, but he fought back bravely, overpowered the guards, and escaped. The Japanese had underestimated him. James was a trained soldier. As he moved through the forest, he spotted an old abandoned plane and started walking toward it. But the path was filled with traps. James got caught again. He was recaptured and taken back to the camp. When Commander Ito learned that James had killed some of his men, he grew furious. He shouted, "The man you killed was like a brother to me." Then Ito tore off the badge from James's uniform. It was his father's medal. James, like his father, was an officer in the British Air Force. Because of that, Ito sentenced him to death the next day. James was thrown into a prison cell where he found many other prisoners, Americans and soldiers from other countries, all trapped just like him. Everyone wanted to escape, no matter what it took. The next day, James was brought out in front of everyone. Ito called for a fighter named Tony, who was to fight James, because Ito wanted to test James's strength. But first, Tony had to fight 3 other prisoners. One by one, Tony grabbed them and beat them brutally. No one seemed capable of standing against him. Then Ito ordered James to step forward. This fight would be to the death. As the fight began, Tony charged forward, but James struck him with a single powerful kick that sent him crashing to the ground. That one blow nearly knocked Tony out. Then James used his fists, one strong punch after another, until Tony lay unconscious on the floor. Everyone watching was stunned. Even Commander Ito was shocked. James's single powerful strike had completely destroyed Tony. James had proven that he was not just any soldier. He was a warrior who refused to die easily. A little later, Ito was busy with his work. His junior officer, Todd, was angry at him for not having executed James yet. Ito calmly told him, "He's going to die. If not today, then tomorrow. I just want to enjoy this first." Then James was called in again. When he entered, he saw Danny, a nurse who was being forced to work there against her will. Danny quietly walked away after seeing James. Ito looked at James and asked, "You fight in our style. Have you trained in Japan?" James replied, "I've trained in many places around the world." Ito smirked and said, "Your skills are impressive. I suppose you want your father's medal back?" James said, "Yes." Ito replied coldly, "Your father wouldn't be proud to see you in this condition. Tomorrow, you'll get another chance to die," and ordered the guards to take him away. The next day, James was in his tent with his new friends, feeling frustrated, while outside, another fight was taking place. Soon, James was called out again, and now all the prisoners had become his fans. That day, James had to fight an even stronger opponent than Tony. The fight began. 3 fighters came at James together. They were fast and aggressive, but James's strength and skill completely overwhelmed them. He fought fiercely, using brutal punches and kicks, and one by one, he knocked all 3 of them down. Everyone was stunned, even Ito. But instead of killing them, James spared their lives. That night, James and the other prisoners were uneasy. They feared Ito would take revenge. Their fears came true. Ito ordered the execution of the soldiers James had defeated. Seeing this, James was deeply disturbed. Among the prisoners, James had grown close to 2 men named Harry and Ron. Together, they began planning an escape. James said, "We need a radio to contact the outside world. There must be one in the watchtower." During the day, James worked along with the others, pretending to be a regular laborer. At the same time, Harry and Ron started a fake fight to distract the guards. When an officer from the watchtower came down to stop them, James quickly climbed up and stole the radio. As he climbed down, more guards appeared, but James managed to outsmart them and slip away. He rushed into the jungle to try and use the radio. On his way out, Danny saw him. She looked frightened. Moments later, a Japanese soldier approached Danny and began harassing her. Danny tried to resist, but the soldier slapped her and demanded to know where James was. Danny refused to tell him anything. After the soldier left, James came out of hiding and quietly thanked her. Danny said, "If you're escaping, take me with you." When James reached Ron warned him, "You can't escape right now, the guards are suspicious. We need to stay calm and act normal." So everyone went back to work as if nothing had happened. That night, James tried to turn on the radio, but there was no signal, no voice, nothing. To make contact, he realized he'd have to climb higher up the mountain ridge. The next morning, Ito grew suspicious. He gathered all the prisoners and announced, "Some of you are planning to escape. Let me warn you, if anyone tries and we catch them, the punishment will be death." They captured another prisoner and Ito demanded, "Tell me who else was with you and maybe I'll spare you." The prisoner gave up others, and on Ito's orders, those men were executed right in front of everyone. James and Harry froze, terrified by what they had just witnessed. That night, James knew the Japanese could kill them at any time. He asked a prisoner named Bonnie which way he had escaped before. Bonnie said, "I'll tell you, but you must never give my name to anyone." James agreed. Bonnie warned that beyond the camp there was a huge forest, and you couldn't just run and survive. "But there are secret paths that lead to the woods," Bonnie added. James listened carefully and began to form a plan. That night, James hid his shoes under his bed. He slipped out, took some wooden boards from the work area, and quietly crept to the far side of the camp. He eased aside the wire under the posts and slipped into the jungle. Meanwhile, an officer named Kane began inspecting the barracks. Kane noticed only shoes under James's bed and suspected something. When he checked, James wasn't there. Still, Kane was not cruel. He didn't want bloodshed, so he left with the other officers. James had run up into the hills and spotted a ship far out on the water that looked American to him. He turned the radio on and heard an antenna's signal, a code he recognized. So he came back, pulled the wire back into place, and returned to the camp, rushing back into his cell. The next day, everyone went about their work. James told them he'd heard a Navajo signal on the radio, a Native American code, and he believed the Americans nearby would come to rescue them. He said they needed to send a message. They were being held captive, and the Americans would come save them. Bonnie and Harry thought the idea was too risky. James argued that there was an abandoned plane nearby where they could hide and call for help. It was their only way out. They were still talking about the plan when the guards grabbed James and dragged him to Ito. Ito demanded, "What do you know about Navajo, the language of the Native Americans?" James replied, "Perhaps the Americans use it. I don't know it." Ito taunted that since James had trained in many countries, he must know many languages. "But you don't know Navajo?" Ito pressed. James said, "No, I don't. I'm British." Ito sneered that a small American code language would be of no use to the Japanese. He warned them all, "Remember this, none of you will ever see your families again. Soon I'll send you to a torture camp where you'll feel real pain." James answered defiantly, "Send as many men as you like. I'm ready to make them feel that pain right here." They marched James back to his cell. Ito was furious. He slammed his fist and broke the table in one blow. Todd, standing by, said, "If you hate him so much, make him die in your prison." Ito said that the Americans were close by, and if they could come here, then the British could too. "If we kill him now, we'll have to answer to the higher officers, and from these prisoners we could make deals for the war." The next day, they had James bound. Ito came to look at him, and then all the officers together began to beat James and demanded that he tell them the truth about the Navajo code. But the beatings had no effect. James refused to say a word. The officers grew tired from beating him, but James didn't budge. They were impressed by his bravery. Then they released James. The moment he stood, an officer swung a piece of wood at him. James grabbed the officer, and one by one he fought them all, beating the officers with a speed and ferocity no one could match. He left them in bad shape. Todd tried to kill him, but James defeated him too, then looked at Ito and left Todd alive. An officer struck James on the head and knocked him down. The next day, James woke to find Danny treating his wounds. She told him he had been unconscious for a full day. Ito had never allowed any prisoner to be treated by her before. James was special to her, and she thought he was brave. James replied that he didn't think so. Danny asked, "You're going to escape from here, right? Will you take me with you? We were taken from our villages and imprisoned against our will. We want to be free." James promised, "I will help you." James was still weak. Danny gave him water. Her cousin Manny was there too, and she explained how difficult it was to escape through the nearby jungle. That's why they were trapped. They knew Ito would never willingly let them go. Then officers arrived. Danny quietly said goodbye to James and left. James rested and thought about what to do next. That night, James was back in his cell. Ito came and told him that some prisoners had tried to escape again and will be punished tomorrow. "You're back on your feet," Ito said. "Let's see how much fun we have. I'll give you another chance to die." James replied, "You try that every day and never succeed." Ito said, "We'll see tomorrow." James challenged him, "Tomorrow, send all your fighters at once. If I beat them, you come fight me yourself." At that moment, explosions went off outside. James said, "Armies from other countries are arriving." Ito sneered that they weren't coming to rescue James, and if they came here, they and the prisoners would be killed together. James kept thinking about the situation and told his fellow prisoners that the Americans would come to save them. Ito refused to let them go. Bonnie said maybe Ito had never seen a warrior like James. Everyone there knew that killing or torturing prisoners captured in war was against the rules, but still, Ito refused to release them. Then James said, if the soldiers from another country are found by their army, they will send them back home safely, so the Americans will also rescue us and take us back to our country. A while later, James went outside with his comrade Ron. He needed to contact the Americans through Ron because Ron was also an American. Both of them moved ahead secretly, but one of the officers spotted them. James kicked him hard, killing him instantly. Just then, Kane was coming from that direction. James caught him, and with Ron's help told him, "I don't want to kill you, but you'll have to listen to us." Then Kane came outside and signaled both of them to escape. They both got out and tried to contact the Americans through the radio, but they couldn't get a connection that night. The next day, Ito gathered everyone and announced that last night, one of the prisoners tried to escape and blamed Harry for it. Then James said, "No, that was me." Ito replied, "If it was your doing, then you'll be punished." He ordered James to execute a prisoner using his power punch. James refused, so Ito threatened to kill Harry instead. James said, "I will not kill an innocent man." Then the officers executed the prisoner on the spot. Later, fighters were sent to kill Harry. Harry fought them brutally. He tore one man's throat out with his teeth and defeated them all. The guards then locked him back up with the others. After that, Ito called James to his quarters. James said, "You can't keep us prisoners here. You must hand us back to our army." Ito replied, "This is my camp, and here only my rules apply. You're here for my entertainment." James shot back, "If you're so strong, fight me yourself." Ito approached him, and the guards held James down while Ito beat him, then ordered him back outside to continue labor work. Later, James told Ron that he would head into the jungle that night again to try contacting the Americans. No matter what, they had to send a signal so the army could come and rescue them. At night, they escaped the camp again and reached the jungle. They tried using the radio to contact the Americans, still no response. But suddenly a voice came through. Both of them were overjoyed and gave the Americans their location. The Americans told them that they would arrive to rescue them the next morning. A while later, they returned to their camp, only to find that all the prisoners were missing. They quickly hid the radio, but the guards arrived and captured both of them. They beat James badly, leaving him unconscious on the spot. By morning, James was locked in a room while the American Air Force had begun attacking the enemy base outside. Then Denny and her partner came in and started freeing James and Ron. They had to escape the base, and all the guards were busy fighting. They went back to their cell to retrieve the radio, but it had been destroyed in the explosions. The blast had already killed several guards. They decided to get another radio from the tower. James was ready to take out the guards, but Denny asked him to give her the chance instead. She and Manny moved ahead, pretending to be helpless women, and approached the guards asking for help. As soon as the guards got close, Denny and Manny attacked and killed them right there. Meanwhile, Ron and James went upstairs, got hold of the radio, and saw that the Japanese were about to execute many prisoners. James attacked the guards while Ron used the radio to send the Americans their exact location. Soon, the prisoners began fighting alongside the Americans. Chaos broke out. The prisoners were running for their lives. Ron got into a fight with Todd, and Todd overpowered him, beating him brutally. He was about to kill Ron when Harry intervened and started fighting Todd. The fight was fierce. Todd was brutal, but Harry was incredibly strong. Todd tried to strangle him, but Harry lifted him and slammed him to the ground, ready to finish him off. Then suddenly, Japanese soldiers opened fire, riddling Harry with bullets, and Todd survived. Meanwhile, James entered Ito's tent. Ito was sitting there calmly with his katana. He handed a katana to James, and the two began a deadly sword fight. James's grip and speed were impressive, and soon he began to overpower Ito. He dragged him outside, defeated him, but chose to spare his life. Then James left with Ron. Todd tried to attack James from behind, but Ito stopped him and showed his final respect to James. James and Ron then made their way to a crashed plane nearby, using the radio to signal the Americans. They They hid inside the plane as several enemy officers came after them. Just then, American aircraft fired heavy rounds from above, wiping out the officers and rescuing all the remaining prisoners. In the present day, this entire story was being narrated by James. After finishing, someone asked, "Where is Ito now?" Jay replied, "My father died last year. Until his last breath, he kept talking about your power punch. So I want to fight you myself." James smiled and said, "All right." Jay attacked him, but James easily dodged and blocked every strike, finally throwing him back. Jay was amazed and said, "I want to see your power punch." James then unleashed his legendary power punch, the same 200-pound force blow, right near Jay. Jay felt its power and finally understood why his father admired James so much. Then Jay said, "My father left something for you," and handed James his father's Medal of Honor. Jay added, "He always knew you'd come back for it someday." James thanked him, took the medal, and walked away. And with that, this incredible film came to an end.